Hi, welcome to week 7 of Design for Life Bible Study. This week we're going to look at a principle all about what does it mean to trust? How do I trust? And we're going to look at this idea of trusting specifically in God. So as we look at this, we look to the widow that we see in 2 Kings 4, 1 and 7. There's a woman who was married to a prophet, and her husband dies and leaves her in a bad place. And of course, we understand that back in those times, a woman really relied on her husband to provide financially. And so here she's raising kids, she's doing her job, and her husband dies, and she doesn't have any way to carry on. And so she cries out and asks for help from Elijah the prophet. And the prophet comes, and we don't know how well he knew this man who died. Maybe he didn't know him at all, maybe they were close. But he comes alongside, and as a prophet, he speaks into her life a way forward, a way of hope. We believe that this woman was faithful, but what we understand is that he said, "What do you have?" It's interesting that he started in that spot. What do you have? And then he worked from that place of what do you have, and she had a small jar with some oil in it. That's all she had, which we understand was worth something, but not nearly enough to take care of her needs. But the prophet Elijah says, "Bring that jar that you have and start there." And then he says, "Go out and gather a bunch of empty jars and bring them in and start pouring from the one jar that you have into the other jars and keep pouring and keep pouring." Now, we all know that this is not possible. You can't take a small jar and then fill up a multitude of jars. Where is this going to come from? And I don't know how much this widow thought to herself, this is impossible. I don't know how many miracles she had seen already. I don't know if she had seen any. I assume that being married to a prophet, she knew that God was able to do miraculous things. But whatever the case may be, we know from the story that she actually follows through. She sends out her kids and they gather up a bunch of empty vessels from the people around her. And then they close the door, they go inside and they start pouring out of this little jar into all of the other jars, and they pour and they pour and they pour and they pour, and they're just filling up until all of the jars are gone. And the widow actually says to her kids, "Bring me another jar." And they said, "That's it, that's all we have." And then the oil stopped flowing. But we understand from the story that it was enough for her to be taken care of for the rest of her life. God multiplied big time. But she exercised faith. She trusted God. And you see, that's exactly what God is asking us to do today. Do you trust me? Are you willing to take what you have and add faith to it? Trust me and see what I might do with what you already have. You know, all of us have something to give. And all of us have the ability to trust God and exercise faith. It takes faith to trust in God. And when we do, we get to see miracles. God still does miracles, and I've seen these in my own life. Just like the widow, where you go, how is this going to work? I don't know. I trust God, and God provides. And over throughout history, God has told countless stories through the lives of human beings like you and I of how faith is exercised, trust is exercised, and it produces miracles. Some small, some large. But if you trust God, God will multiply what you have. What small thing in your life might you have that God is waiting to multiply? He's waiting for you to trust Him. I don't know what that is. You might not even know as you listen today. But as God's Spirit reveals it to you, you'll come to a crossroads and you'll have to decide, am I going to walk down this path of trust or doubt? I hope that each one of us, when we get to that crossroads, will choose trust so that God can do another miracle of taking something small and multiplying it, so that people can know that God is able to provide for His people.